Major support has been provided by Chevron, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, Edison International, Valley Strong Credit Union, California Resources Corporation, Panama Buena Vista Union School District, and the Kern High School District. With additional production assistance provided by these supporters of education in Kern County and throughout the state of California.
I'm Diane Barney. Thank you for joining me here at Bakersfield Meadows Field. I got some cool stuff to show you. So behind me and to my right and my left are three very different biplanes. This is the one I flew in today. This is a Boeing Stearman. It is actually a World War II primary trainer. Believe it or not, you look at it, it's big, it's complicated, but an 18-year-old kid who is getting trained, this would be the very first aircraft that he would get behind the controls of. What's special about biplanes in general, right? So you've got a whole nother set of wings up at the top here. It's actually because it took us a long time to figure out how to make structures that are strong enough to hold up an airplane, right? So you've got a lot of force going from the wings to the fuselage. So at like your interface right here, you've got a lot of force going in there. If all you've got is wood and just some rudimentary metal, well, now you need more attachment points. So in addition to the wing root here that you'd see on a normal airplane, you have all these other struts, you have these flying wires, which are actually very, very strong, and then struts out here too. So you have all these other devices to connect the lift that's lifting up the airplane to the rest of the aircraft. And having been a primary trainer for World War II, you probably thought, oh my, how old is this? It's a 1942. Now, how much of it is original from 1942 is debatable, right? You keep up with the maintenance on these things so that you can keep them flying. But it is fabric in many places here, so it squishes in if you push on it. But we do have aluminum, and the structure under the fuselage, underneath the fabric, is metal. But our wing spars in this aircraft, they're made out of wood. Here, come around to the side and let me show you what it looks like in the aircraft. So it's not a cargo aircraft, so there's not a ton of room inside of it. You notice there's two different cockpits here. And you might think, oh, as the pilot, I want to sit up front. No, no, the pilot sits in the back. This is the person who's the pilot in command of the flight, and your student sits up front. So in the back, you actually have much better visibility, because you think, oh man, I really need to see forward. Well, that really helps. It makes it a lot easier if you're taking off and landing and in flight in general, but you don't strictly need it. So this aircraft, your perspective, when you're sitting in here, you see how high that nose is? Unless you're very, very tall, you're probably not going to see forward very well anyway. So when you're sitting in the back, you can see to the sides and down much better, and of course up as well, which is significant when you're in formation and you're looking out for other aircraft in the traffic pattern. Getting up in the airplane, right? There's no steps. You have to do a little bit of yoga to get in. And then you hop in. So you have more controls back here than you have up the front. So it does fly with a stick like a fighter. Still a trainer, but it's a lot of fun. And you've got your throttles, your mixture, and your propeller over on your left side, so right underneath my left hand. We've got some electrical switches. This aircraft has an electrical system, not originally, but it does now. So that's been installed after the fact. And you've got a radio and a transponder way down here. So as you can see, that's not original. That's not very convenient when you're flying around and you need to go heads down and you change a frequency. And then you just have a very basic set of instruments up here. So you notice there's not really a lot by way of navigation. So I've got a compass, but other than that, you're just flying around day VFR. You look at where the roads are, you see where the forests are, wind farms, rivers, and whatever else you can follow. Most aircraft that are going to be trainers are going to have engines that are, maybe 100, 150 horsepower or so. This one though, because this aircraft is so much larger at 3,000 pounds, it has a 300 horsepower engine. But this engine is still a bit oversized for what you'd expect for 300 horsepower. You notice 9 cylinders, and it's configured in what's called a radial. So it makes a fantastic noise. And that has been the Boeing Stearman, and shortly we'll tell you a little bit more about another impressive biplane that's even bigger than this one, an AN2. Welcome back to Bakersfield. I am joined by my friend Todd, who is the founder of the Golden Age of Flight Museum, and he's brought a very special piece of that museum out to show us today. What is this, Todd?
This is an Antonov AN2 biplane. It was built in 1977 in Poland. This one, when it was new, was an airliner for Aeroflot Airlines. Afterwards, it became a crop duster.
So like a big old tractor then?
It's a big flying tractor.
That's just too cool. Could you tell us about the engine on it?
Yes, it's a 1100 horsepower radial engine. It's a 1820 cubic inch, burns about 60 gallons an hour. So it's not the most efficient airplane, but it'll carry anything you put in it. So we cruise about 100 miles an hour.
Wow, 100 miles an hour, that's all you get out of this. So that much more power than the Stearman, and we cruise at almost exactly the same speed. I think the Stearman's just a little bit faster than this.
But the benefit of having 2 wings is you can lift so much more weight. This big scoop on the bottom here is the oil cooler. Everybody thinks it's the air intake.
And so that's where the oil from the engine circulates through it?
It circulates through a cooler there to keep the engine cool. I named it the Fat Cat. We've got the Diane cat on the side up there.
So what about your wings? Are they like the Stearman wings at all?
They are. They're all aluminum, covered in fabric.
So so not wood spars this time?
No,
aluminum
this is all metal.
This time.
The construction technique is very similar though, but the newer airplanes, they went all aluminum instead of the wood on the inside. But it still has the bracing wires to hold everything together, so it's rigid.
Could you tell me about the part of the wing that's hanging down? I can see a lot of sunlight through it. Is that normal?
Oh, so on the flaps and the ailerons on this airplane, as you start to fly slower, there's more pressure on the bottom of the wing, and it pushes through that gap there and flows over the top of that flight control surface to increase the lift. And it helps the slow speed performance. And that's what this airplane was really made for, short runways, flying very slow, carrying a lot of weight. So the air will flow out here and flow along the surface, which gives you more lift. Without these, as the air flows over the top of the wing, as you start raising the nose up, it starts to swirl around, and the gap blows air through and helps it fly better.
That's really cool.
That's the very technical description.
You could haul a lot of stuff in this. How much can it carry?
You can. It'll carry about 4,000 pounds, and the door actually has another bigger door that's part of the small door. This whole thing opens up, and you can put whatever you need.
Well, can you show me the controls on the inside?
Yeah. Let's climb on in.
My goodness, Todd, there is a lot more going on in this cockpit than there was in the Stearman. Do you have the same controls in here as the Stearman?
We have all the same controls and a couple more. So on this airplane, since we have one cockpit with 2 seats side by side, most everything is duplicated on the pilot side to the co-pilot side. If you fly with 2 pilots, they have their own set of instruments over there. This airplane was built and designed so that you could fly through clouds, so it has a couple extra instruments so that we can tell if we're right side up or upside down in a cloud. But as far as flight controls, it's all the same. All the engine controls, we have the same as you have in the Stearman.
But it's not a stick like the Stearman.
But it's not. It's got a regular control wheel like an airliner. And since the airplane is bigger, it has some electric actuators to run some of the systems where the Stearman has just manual levers.
So it's got so more than just mechanical systems in it. Does it have, well, we can see an electrical system, like Stearman has one too, but then there's also, is there hydraulic?
The electric trim systems. There's no hydraulic systems, but this has air brakes instead of hydraulic brakes.
Like a tractor trailer?
Like a tractor trailer.
Really?
Yep. We've got a little handle here on the control wheel that you squeeze, and that puts air pressure to the brake discs to slow the airplane down.
So this really is just a big truck of a biplane, isn't it?
And it was really designed for operating in the middle of nowhere and people that didn't have common tools to work on it. So it's really easy to fix and repair.
Well, Todd, thank you so much for sharing your AN2 with us today.
Oh, thank you.
So when we come back, you'll get to see a modern high-performance sports car of a biplane. We're back here to show you one more biplane. It's a little bit different than the rest. I'm here with my friend Doug and his Pitts Special. Is that what this is?
Yeah, it's the Pitts S1S or the Pitts Special. Yeah, so it's purpose-built for aerobatics, otherwise known as stunt flying. So it was originally, the original version of the Pitts S1 was built all the way back in 1945, and they're still being produced to this day. So really significant little biplane and really reinvented what modern aerobatics looked like.
So not a race plane then, it's
No.
aerobatics.
Some people do race theirs, but this one in particular, this is made for flipping over, doing all sorts of fun stuff.
So what makes it suitable for aerobatics then?
Yeah, so the suitability for aerobatics of this airplane in particular is both wings have a very symmetric airfoil, meaning that the shape of it really is more even on the top and the bottom, meaning that it can fly really well upside down and fly really well right side up. It has 4 ailerons, which means it rolls very quickly as well.
So the steerman is covered in fabric. Is your airplane like that, or is it covered in aluminum?
It's ironically, it's extremely similar to the Stearman, where
Really?
it has a wood structure inside of a fabric-covered wing and then a tube structure for the fuselage with fabric covering.
So the steerman can do aerobatics too, but it's not really a hardcore aerobatics plane because you know, you need to maintain positive forces or the engine will quit on you. It loses fuel, it loses oil. Can yours, maintain fuel, oil, all that good stuff?
It sure can, yeah. So the firewall forward of this airplane, there's a whole lot special going on in there. So inside there's a ball, a check valve, and an air oil separator to make sure that you can get good clean oil being returned from the engine back into the sump the whole time. It'll be able to make oil pressure in any azimuth. And inside of the fuel tank, you have what we call a flop tube. So it's a little tube that goes back and forth to try and suck gas down into the engine and a fuel pump to keep positive pressure on the whole time.
All right, well, can you show me the engine a little bit?
Sure.
Let's just point it out. So like this engine looks a lot different than, the Stearman is a big round engine and cylinders hanging out there, and the AN2 is a big round engine. It's covered in a cowl.
Yeah.
But yours is not round, really.
Yeah, not at all. So it is quite the opposite. It's horizontally opposed, which means that it has 4 cylinders, 2 on each side of the crankcase, and they go in opposite directions. So the pistons kind of work themselves back and forth like this. So still air-cooled, but the challenges are very different in the way that the whole sort of front of the airplane is shaped, which is why it looks so different. Just those 2 little holes to let air in the front, keep it nice and streamlined, versus having all of your cylinders out into the free stream or out into the air just to get the cooling.
Right, so how much power does this make?
So it only makes 160 horsepower.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right, that's almost half of the Stearman and a much tinier fraction of what the AN2 does.
Very much so.
So how fast does it go then with only 160 horsepower?
Well, so the red line's up at about 200 miles an hour, and you may not be able to find it level, but we certainly find it on the way down into an aerobatic box.
So red line?
Red line's the fastest airspeed that the airplane's allowed to fly.
Okay, so this is actually way faster than the other two, even though it has a whole lot less power.
That's right.
So
a lot of that attributed to the fact that it weighs almost a third of the Stearman and a 10th of the AN2.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's what, 1,100 pounds?
1,100 pounds, yeah. So
my goodness, what a difference.
yeah, about a fifth of a normal truck. Yeah.
So what else is special about it for aerobatics? I know we've got some things hanging off the side that I don't see on the other 2 airplanes.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what I'm looking at over here?
Yeah, so we have the aerobatic sight here. This allows you to fly the airplane good, straight, and level down the middle. You can fly the airplane perfectly vertical by using this little guy here, or you can fly vertical 45 or down 45 lines by using these 2 pieces right here. So you line them up with the horizon and you're flying straight down at a 45, level, or vertical.
So with you sitting in the cockpit, you look out to the side and then you see the horizon to tell what you're doing. So it's not an instrument inside the airplane that's telling you that. It's actually just this piece of metal hanging off the side of the airplane that's telling you that.
It's certainly not, yeah. And so when you're flying upside down and doing aerobatics, your head is very busy. You're not looking inside the cockpit. You're really looking all over and getting reference to the world around you, which is why this lives outside on the outside of the airplane.
So can we get a look at inside the cockpit?
Certainly can. So a fair amount smaller than the others, that's for sure, but still has the standard stick in your right hand, throttle in your left, just like the Stearman, 2 rudder pedals down at the bottom with brakes on them. So it looks a whole lot like most other airplanes, but what you can get out of it is a fair amount more.
Oh, hey, what is this a parachute you have in here?
It certainly is, yeah.
You've got a parachute in it.
Yeah, so if you're gonna flip your airplane upside down and go in all sorts of azimuths, it's a good idea to be able to get out if something goes wrong.
So is that all these extra straps we have in here?
Yeah,
too?
so in this case, the straps are there specifically to keep you as attached to the airplane as you can possibly be, right? So when you flip the airplane upside over, right, you take the acceleration of gravity, and now instead of pushing you down into your seat, it's trying to pull you out of it. Well, it's really bad luck when you flip the airplane upside down and your head goes into the canopy. So in this case, there's actually an entire ratchet strap there to hold you really tight down into your seat. And I'm not a small guy, so it's a pretty strong strap.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for showing us your Pitts biplane today.
Of course.
And talking about it.
My pleasure.
So I think that's all we have for you today. Todd, if you would come on over. Thank you so much
you're
for
welcome.
having this gorgeous museum piece to show us today. Is there a way that members of the public can see your airplane?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Golden Age Flight Museum, and also Instagram and the website, goldenageflightmuseum.org. And there's all sorts of good videos and pictures of all the airplanes flying and nice write-ups about the history of them.
And all sorts of cool airplanes in addition to the AN2, so there's
We
more
have a
out
lot
there
of
than that.
airplanes.
Well, thank you so much, Todd, for your
Thanks.
time, and thank you so much, Doug,
quite
for
welcome.
your time as well.